Morning, Intuitives. Wanted to get a video out before I have to go to my weekly therapy session. And this video gets into my videos about narcissistic abuse, and it more or less is a case study about narcissistic abuse. And I think that's a nervous tick the more I think about it, because I took my nasal spray today. I think it's me being a little nervous about being on camera and being so uh, scared about making like any little movements or seeming more eccentric than I already am, because it's like must not wipe nose, can't wipe nose, and then it just makes me want to do it more. So, but you guys, I'm pretty, you know the eccentric INFJ that I am. I couldn't pretend to be somebody else even if I wanted to, which I don't. But I want to get into a video about a case study about a narcissist, and I'm going to use a narcissist that is fairly well known, but information about him is easily obtained on YouTube. And just a reminder that this video, like all of my videos, are merely my opinions. I am not a mental health professional or a doctor and hold no medical certification beyond the fact that I am a nationally registered emergency medical technician. That is my only medical certification. So this video and all my videos are merely my opinions at that moment in time and are solely for entertainment purposes. But I wanted to give my opinion about a fairly well-known narcissist, the serial police impersonator, Jeremy Dewitte. Now, if you're not familiar with Jeremy Dewitte, I suggest watching videos on PoliceTube, and there's other channels too, but that is the most common one. And part of the reason why I'm choosing him as this case study is because he is fairly well known, and the plethora of information and videos of him in his own words, where you can see how he acts with people, you can hear his lies, and you can compare them with what is known about him via publicly available information through his transcripts or lack thereof, lack of military records, court transcripts, his jail time and all that. So what comes out of his mouth and what is fact is easily looked up, and it's easy to see his narcissism. And also, I talked about in another video about how he's able to control people as well as he does, and that has to do with a narcissistic tactic known as command presence, which is commonly used by narcissists in a workplace setting, especially in a military or paramilitary setting. As I mentioned, my abuser had quite the command presence and could, get people who outrank him to fall in line due to his command presence and entitlement of being a legacy, which is just a way to say nepotist, because while there is such thing as a legacy in the fire service, a legacy implies that you are the sibling, child, grandchild, etc. of a line of duty death, which the individual who bullied and hazed me was not. He simply had past and present family who worked as firefighters. They did not die in the line of duty, and they, retired and took their pension and lived. So he is a nepotist and not a legacy. I did, however, go to class with an actual legacy, although he wasn't an Arlington County legacy. His father died in the line of duty in Washington, D.C. fire back in the late 90s. But that would be an example of an actual legacy firefighter. Someone related to somebody who made the ultimate sacrifice, not just, I don't deserve to be here because my daddy was here before me kind of thing. That's just good old boy shit. But back to my point. Jeremy Dewitte, like most narcissists, is a pathological liar. He exhibits psychopathic and sociopathic tendencies. Everybody is just a pawn to him. He uses those around him for his end game. He has a strong desire to be loved, admired, feared, and respected. And this is evident, if you see the videos about him. He wanted to be a police officer most of his life. Oh, and also he was on Dr. Phil. You can watch that video too. It's interesting. But he wanted to be a police officer and was in an explorer program, in his late teens, which is common. I was what was known as a junior firefighter at 16, where you basically help roll hose and you go to calls, but you can't go inside, and you do stuff exterior, you fill air bottles and stuff like that just to get you exposed. And then I became an EMT at 17. But Jeremy decided at 18, while he was an explorer, which is like a cadet, to impersonate a police officer to try to get out of paying for gas. And he was caught and thus banned from ever being in law enforcement. This created a desire within him to find some type of military or paramilitary authority, as that seemed to be the core of what he sought. He has this need to seem like this, super badass hero type, and wants to be respected by those in uniform, be it military or police. As I said, he's a pathological liar. He's been on tape lying numerous times about serving in the military. He claims to have been an Army Ranger and a member of Special Forces known as the Green Berets. There is no such record of him having ever served in the military, which is stolen valor, and that is truly deplorable. If you want the valor of having served in uniform, then serve in uniform. So, he claimed to have once been a police officer, like not an explorer, but an actual police officer, and claimed to have left to serve in the military. Like I said, none of that is true. He claims to have jumped into Fallujah as one of the members of the Green Berets, and from what actual Fallujah veterans have said, nobody jumped into Fallujah. And, actual veterans have a good laugh about that, and rightfully so. So he never served. He was never a police officer. He is, in fact, a registered sex offender for sleeping with a girl that was approximately 15 years of age, although Dewitte says that he met her at a club and she lied about her age and there was no actual sexual contact. But the court documents, and people have read them online, state that no, he knew she was 15. He was, in fact, living with her family, and these relations went on for months, so hence why he was rightfully convicted of statutory rape and thus further barred from being in the military, being a police officer, or being a firefighter. As he mentioned, because he jumped in the Fallujah and his riser didn't pop on his parachute, he injured his back and can't even get certified as a firefighter in the state of Florida. No, he can't get certified as a firefighter in the state of Florida because he's registered sex offender, and despite the issues with the IAFF, they do draw lines at some point. They need to do a better job of reeling in the good old boys, but at least the sex offenders aren't allowed in. So good job, I guess, union. Union who didn't do a damn thing for me and protected my accuser, but I guess you did the bare minimum here. So Dewitte then. He got married. He regularly cheats on his wife, as does a relative of mine. He has delusions of grandeur, which is a big, big thing with narcissists. And you can see this in any of his interviews, in any of the videos where he talks about himself. Like I said, I mentioned the Fallujah, the police, the Green Beret thing, but he has to always make himself seem tougher and more badass than the people he talks to. He does this in the videos where he interacts with actual police officers and, tries to act like he's seen more, done more than them, even after they realize that he himself is not a police officer. But again, he wants that command presence and that respect of being in uniform. Hence why he formed his company, Metro State, to do funeral escorts in the state of Florida, and thus modeled his vehicles, both his cars and his motorcycles, and his uniform to look as police-like as possible while still technically not breaking the law. And they even carry utility belts that mimic that of actual police officers. The only real distinction being is that they carry pepper ball, non-lethal guns instead of actual firearms. And since he's a convicted felon, he can't have an actual open carry, an actual firearm. And we all know he's not cool enough to carry a revolver, because those are for men of honor. Revolvers are cool. But he wants that presence. That's why he has his company. If you see his videos, his motorcycle's decked out with purple lights. He refers to himself as Motor One. He has radios just for show that him and his crew have to wear just to look like police officers. He has police sirens on his vehicles that are not legal, as well as air horns that he overuses. He certainly, from what it seems like, from what I understand about the Florida statutes, oversteps his bounds in what he's actually allowed to do as a funeral escort, and tries to be as police-like as possible, using his command presence, again, telling people to get out of my funeral, pull over, acting as if he's a police officer, and then when confronted, always, I'm a state agent, when the reality is he has a LLC, a limited liability corporation, with the state of Florida, and holds no actual certification to do what he does. He's Metro State is or slash was a legitimate business, but there is no such thing as like a certification one has to go through to be a funeral escort, as far as I know, as opposed to, say, training to be a licensed police officer or a firefighter or an EMT, but the guy really has no morals, as I said. Registered sex offender. He had an Ashley Madison account where he regularly cheated on his wife. He often uses people to his own benefit. He knows the legal system. You got to give him that. The guy is intelligent. He knows his statutes. He knows how to wiggle out of things. He knows cop lingo and how to talk like a police officer. He seems to very much enjoy, in the videos where he's in a police station being questioned by actual police officers, he seems to really enjoy that and sees it more like a, camaraderie with his fellow officers. And he refers to his contractors for his funeral escort company as officers. And he wears the rank of a high-ranking individual as 4 stripes. And I think, I'm not really up in police rankings, but I think 2 stars would be a deputy chief. It certainly would be in the chief ranks, I would believe, if it's anything like it is in the fire service. But it's a really interesting case. I think good people have lost their jobs trying to hold Dewitte accountable for his actions. He has endangered people. He has broken several laws. And, the sad thing is if he wasn't trying to impersonate police, he could run a legit funeral escort company and actually be pretty profitable, because there seems to be a market for that in Florida. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of older people relocate to Florida and must die there, so I would assume that Florida, it's a fairly densely populated state with a, older population overall, so I would assume the amount of funerals that take place in Florida, especially in the metropolitan areas, are higher than it is in most states, because, a lot of older people from up north go and retire in Florida. Like, people in Florida don't go to retire in Maine. So, there was a niche market in that area for that business. But this individual, in my opinion, seems to be obsessed about being perceived as, if not police, certainly as a symbol of authority. He refers to himself as a state agent, and he wants that respect. He wants everybody who encounters him to assume that he is in a position of authority, that he is an authority figure. And that seems to be the case in, you watch a lot of these videos of people who impersonate police. Some pretty funny ones too. But Dewitte has all the classic signs of a narcissist, and you see that in the videos where he's in the comments of the videos. You can hear him in his own words. He's often referred to as a narcissist, and you can just go, I'm using him as an example because I found these videos entertaining. A old law enforcement friend told me about them, and there are a lot of similarities between Dewitte and my abuser, so I laughed out loud at some of Dewitte's antics, but especially command and presence. but it is like I think a great case study into, okay, let's see a narcissist in their own words, not somebody telling a story using narcissistic tactics and what their end game is. And like most narcissists, he'll throw anybody under the bus to save himself. He'll lie again as easily as we can breathe. And I found the whole story interesting. Like I said, I bring it up as my opinion and a case study, and as an example that's readily available if anybody wants to see a narcissist, like being a narcissist in their own words, unedited. Jeremy Dewitte would be someone to look up on PoliceTube or the other channels that have his videos, and you can see and hear him in his own words, and it can give you a better understanding of a lot of narcissistic tactics. So if you sadly encounter somebody like that in your life, you can recognize the tactics for what they are and either gray rock or go no contact right from the beginning, or do whatever you can to avoid that situation, to not get sucked in and used by that narcissist. Remember, if there's multiple red flags that someone is showing the signs of narcissistic behavior, trust your intuition and don't sell out your integrity to a narcissistic boss. They're just going to screw you over in the end anyway. And don't be a DeWitt.